I helped my family for years without keeping track or asking why. When the requests turned into expectations, one simple no revealed who loved me and who just needed me. You ever hand someone a 20 and tell yourself, it's just this once? That is how it started for me. 120, then another. And before I knew it, I was everyone's emergency fund with a heartbeat. It was around the time my younger sister, Karen, was going through a rough patch with her husband. Their car broke down, and they had no way to get to work. She called me, nearly in tears, saying, "We just need a little help until Friday." I did not even think about it. I wired her $500 that same afternoon. Helping felt good. It made me feel like the kind of man I always wanted to be, the dependable one, the strong one. I had no wife, no kids, and a decent job at a logistics company. So throwing a little cash to help family, it seemed like the right thing to do. Next came my cousin Jake. He is the type who always finds himself in transitions. This time it was a roommate situation gone bad. He was crashing on couches, trying to scrape rent. "Just 100 till payday," he said, followed by a sheepish laugh. I sent it over. "No problem. Mom needed help with her electric bill that winter. Dad's meds were not covered by insurance anymore. Karen's kid needed new cleats for soccer. Jake needed gas to make it to a job interview. Uncle Rob had a business opportunity that needed a small upfront investment." I did not blink. I just sent. I never kept track. I never asked when the money was coming back. I believed, deep in my bones, that when you love someone, you show up. No scorecards. No IOUs. People started calling me solid, reliable, the one we can count on. I carried that badge like it meant something. At first, they all said thank you. Every call ended with, "I'll pay you back, I swear." Some did. Most forgot. A few probably never intended to. But I shrugged it off. It's family, I told myself. And I meant it. What I did not notice, not at first, was the shift. The way their voices stopped sounding grateful. The way "could you help us out" slowly turned into "you got it, right?" The way I became their plan A without even knowing it. The warning signs were there. I just ignored them. The first time Karen borrowed money and then posted pictures of a spa day the next week, I told myself she must have used a gift card. When Jake bought concert tickets days after I covered his phone bill, I figured someone else must have paid for them. I wanted to believe the best. I needed to. Because if I let myself believe they were using me, what did that say about the people I love? But denial has a shelf life. And mine was starting to spoil. What cracked it wide open was one simple phrase from Jake, not long after I sent him $300 for rent. He said, "Man, you're basically a bank with better hours." He laughed when he said it. But I didn't. And that was the first time I started to wonder just how deep I was in. Once Jake made that bank joke, I started paying closer attention. And what I saw made my stomach twist. The calls kept coming, but they sounded different now. Less like requests, more like transactions. Karen once called and opened with, "Hey, you got me, right?" Not even a hello. No asking. Just assuming. At first, I told myself they were just comfortable. I had built that comfort. I had answered every call, never once made them feel small for asking. But now that comfort felt more like control. Mom started hinting at things instead of asking outright. She would sigh dramatically on the phone and say things like, "Well, I guess I'll figure it out somehow. Just wish your father hadn't worked himself to the bone for nothing." That kind of guilt you do not argue with. It just sits in your chest and grows roots. Jake got bold. He called me one afternoon while I was at work and said, "I need 400. Rent's late." No please. No story. Like I was a number he could call and punch in digits. I asked him when he thought he could return it. He laughed and said, "Man, you know you'll survive either way. You're good for it." That line sat in my head for days. You're good for it. Not thank you. Not I appreciate this. Just an assumption that my account was their safety net. It felt like they saw me less as family and more like some resource they could tap into whenever life got inconvenient. I started noticing things. Karen's husband got a new phone. Jake upgraded his gaming setup. My parents suddenly managed to visit a cabin for a weekend getaway. Nobody mentioned where the money came from. I was still driving the same 10-year-old Civic, still wearing worn-out boots to work, still bringing a peanut butter sandwich for lunch 4 days a week. And none of it bothered me, until it did. Because the truth was, I was not rich. I just budgeted like hell. I skipped vacations, skipped big purchases, skipped comfort, so they could have theirs. And for a while, I was okay with that. But it started to eat at me. Slowly, quietly. It got to a point where I flinched every time my phone buzzed. Not because I was scared, because I knew. I knew it was going to be another ask. Another favor. Another, just this once. That was really the 15th time. I started saying no in my head, but never out loud. I still answered. Still paid. Still told myself, family helps family. That's what good people do. But I started to wonder, when did being the good one start feeling so bad? And then came the message that pushed me further than I had ever been before. It was from my dad. He did not even call. Just sent a text. It read, "Send $750 to your mother's account. Car issue." That was it. No question. No explanation. Just a command. And for the first time in years, I stared at the screen and did not move. Because something in me had shifted. And I knew this was not going to end unless I ended it. I stared at my dad's text for a solid minute. The number was not even what got me. $750? Sure, it stung, but it was the tone. Like I was just some button he could press to make money appear. No hello. No how are you? Just an order. And here's the part that messed with me. I almost sent it anyway. Out of habit. My finger hovered over the banking app like it always did. I could hear his voice in my head. Be a man. Take care of your family. That voice had been with me since I was a kid. Back when I used to rake leaves for $5 and he'd take 3 of it, saying it was for the house. Back when he told me real men never say no to their blood. I closed the app. I just could not do it. Instead of replying, I turned my phone face down and stared at the ceiling for a long time. The walls in my apartment felt smaller than usual. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the way everything I had worked for, every overtime shift, every bonus I had socked away, had slowly trickled into everyone else's life but mine. That weekend, I did something out of character. I checked every transfer I had made in the past year. I never used to do that. I believed money given from the heart should not be tracked. But man, seeing it all in black and white, it gutted me. In 12 months, I had sent just over $11,000 to family. $11,000. Rent money, emergency money, guilt money, birthday money, forgot to pay the phone bill money. None of it had come back. I sat there trying to remember the last time any of them had offered me anything. A meal? A visit? A check-in that did not end in a request? Nothing came to mind. I was not family. I was a service. That realization sat in my gut like a rock. Not even anger. Just this weird, hollow ache. The kind you feel when you realize something sacred had been quietly rotting for a while, and you just never noticed. I ended up taking a long walk that night. Passed by a diner I used to go to with Karen when we were kids. She always begged for chocolate pie. I always let her have the last bite. I walked past the Little League field where I used to take Jake's kids when he was too hungover to show up. I used to sit in the bleachers, cheer louder than anyone, and then take them out for fries like I was the one who scored the goals. All these memories, they were good. But now they felt twisted, like flashbacks to a life where I mattered because I gave, not because I was loved. When I got back to my apartment, the lights blinking on my phone told me everything I needed to know. 2 missed calls from Mom, 1 voicemail, and a group text from Jake that just said, "You good, man? Dad said you're acting weird." Weird? All because I had not replied to a demand? I clicked play on the voicemail. My mother's voice came through, tight, impatient. "I do not know what is going on with you lately, but your father is stressed, and this is not the time to act difficult. Just send the money. We will sort things out later." And that was the moment something in me snapped. Not loud, not angry, just final. I opened my phone, typed a message back to my dad. "I cannot help this time." 6 words. No apology. No explanation. I hit send and waited. Nothing could have prepared me for what came next. The reply came in less than 5 minutes. Just 3 words from my dad. Wow. Selfish much? No joke. That was it. No question. No space for conversation. Just a cold little knife in the ribs. Then the flood started. Jake messaged next. "Bro, seriously? You know they're struggling. It is just a bit of help. You've always come through." Then Karen chimed in on the family group chat, where nobody had sent me a happy birthday message 3 weeks ago. "By the way, with this gym, what happened to you? You used to care. Used to care." I read that one twice. And suddenly I realized they had rewritten the story. My story. In their heads, they were the struggling heroes, and I was the stone-hearted villain who suddenly forgot what family meant. It did not matter that I had been carrying them for years. That I had skipped things I needed, missed vacations, passed up opportunities, because I was scared of what would happen to them if I chose me. None of that mattered. Because the second I said no, the illusion broke. I was no longer useful. And when you stop being useful to people who only love you for what you give, they stop pretending to love you at all. I stayed quiet the rest of that night. Did not respond. Did not explain. Just let the silence stretch. It burned. Not gonna lie. You want to believe that your family loves you unconditionally. That they see you as a person, not a paycheck. But their reaction said everything. They did not want me. They wanted access. The next day, I woke up to no good mornings. No, we talked it over. Just radio silence. Then came the post. Karen's Facebook. One of those fake deep quotes pasted over a blurry picture of a sunset. It read, "Sometimes the ones you love the most are the ones who abandon you first." I stared at it, not sure whether to laugh or scream. A few of her friends commented with things like, "Stay strong, girl," and "That's family for you." Always disappointing when it matters most. Jake liked it. My mother shared it. My father commented with a thumbs up emoji. None of them said my name. But everyone knew. I was the villain now. The selfish one. The one who changed. But you know what? They were right. I had changed. For the first time in my life, I had said no. Quietly. Calmly. Without begging to still be loved after. And that one no was enough to tear the whole illusion down. What they did not know, and what I had not even admitted to myself yet, was that this was just the start. Because something else was coming. Something I had not told anyone. Something I had been keeping close for months. And once it came out, things were never going to be the same. There was a reason I had been budgeting so hard. A reason I had been turning down dinners out, skipping trips, driving that old Civic like it was a badge of honor instead of a limitation. A reason I had let myself become the family's unofficial bank without ever checking my own balance emotionally. None of them knew it. Not Karen. Not Jake. Not my parents. 6 months earlier, I had gotten news that quietly rearranged my entire life. The kind of news that makes you sit very still in a plastic chair while a stranger talks, and you nod like you understand, even though nothing makes sense anymore. It was not dramatic. No hospital sirens. No movie moment. Just a doctor clearing his throat and explaining that something was wrong, that it was manageable, but that it would require treatment, time, and money. A lot of it. I walked out of that office with a folder under my arm and the sudden understanding that I was on my own. I did not tell my family because I already knew how that story would go. Concern at first. Maybe a few emotional phone calls. And then, slowly, the same shift. My problem becoming our problem. My savings becoming available. My illness turning into another justification for why I should keep sacrificing. So I stayed quiet. I built an emergency fund with surgical precision. Every dollar had a job. Rent buffer. Medical buffer. Time buffer in case I could not work for a while. It was not fear that drove me. It was survival. And every time I sent money to my family, I pulled it from that safety net. I told myself I would replace it later. I always did. Until I could not anymore. The week after I said no to my dad, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, staring at numbers that finally told the truth I had been avoiding. If I kept going the way I had been going, I would be broke when I needed myself most. That was the part nobody talks about when they glorify generosity. How it quietly eats the future you are trying to protect. The cruel irony was that my family did not even notice the strain. To them, I was still the one who always lands on his feet. The one with no real responsibilities. The one who would be fine no matter what. They never asked how I was sleeping. Never noticed how tired I sounded. Never questioned why I stopped making long-term plans. They just wanted the transfers to keep coming. Karen stopped speaking to me altogether. Jake sent a couple half-hearted messages, mostly framed like jokes, trying to shame me back into compliance. My parents told relatives I was going through a selfish phase. And still, nobody asked if I was okay. That silence taught me something important. If I had collapsed tomorrow, they would have been shocked, saddened, maybe even guilty, but they would have still expected access until the very end. And that realization hurt more than the diagnosis ever did, because it meant the hardest truth was still ahead of me. I was not just going to have to say no once. I was going to have to change everything, and they were not going to like it. It was a Thursday night when it happened. I had just gotten home from another appointment, one of those routine ones where they say things like, "Good progress," but never give you anything solid to hold on to. I was drained, physically and mentally. All I wanted was silence. Instead, I walked into chaos. My phone was ringing nonstop. Missed calls. 3 voicemails from Karen. 2 texts from Jake. 1 from my mother that just said, "Call me. Emergency." I took a breath, sat down at the kitchen table, and braced myself. The first voicemail was from Karen. Her voice was frantic. "I didn't mean for it to go this way, but I had no choice. You weren't answering. You left us no other option." My stomach dropped. I opened my banking app. And just like that, the pit I had been trying to climb out of turned bottomless. A transfer had gone through. $3,000. Gone. I stared at the transaction history like it might change if I looked hard enough. Karen had accessed one of my old linked accounts, an emergency backup I used for medical costs. I had given her access years ago when her daughter needed surgery and her husband was out of work. I never removed her. Forgot all about it. And now? She used it. No text asking. No warning. Just took it. Like it was hers. I could not even process it at first. I just sat there with my hands shaking, scrolling through screenshots, rereading the number again and again, waiting for my brain to give me an answer other than the truth. Jake's text came next. "Don't be mad at her. She just panicked. You used to help without blinking." Without blinking. I felt something cold rise in me. Not rage. Not yet. But something worse. Betrayal. Real betrayal. The kind that rewrites history in a single moment. All the good I had tried to hold on to, every sacrifice I made without resentment, just snapped under the weight of that one decision. They did not just ask for help anymore. They took it. And you know what the worst part was? They still thought I would understand. My mother finally called again. I picked up. Her voice was calm, too calm. "She only did it because you pushed her to. If you had answered, it wouldn't have come to this." Blame. Not on Karen. On me. I hung up mid-sentence. I had nothing left to say. Something broke that night. I wish I could say it was just trust, but it went deeper than that. Something fundamental shifted inside me. Because when your own blood violates the one boundary you never thought they'd touch, your autonomy, it changes the whole game. I was no longer asking for space. I was preparing for war. And the first thing I did? I called my bank. The second? I called my lawyer. Because if they wanted to treat me like an ATM, then they were about to find out what it felt like when the machine shuts down, for good. I did not sleep that night. Not out of panic. Not even anger, exactly. Just a sort of cold clarity. Like my body had been waiting for permission to finally stop pretending this was okay. By morning, I had frozen every joint account, reset every password, and revoked every permission I had ever handed out in the name of trust. It felt surgical. Necessary. The calls kept coming. Texts poured in like they were racing each other to be ignored. My phone looked like a digital riot. Everyone trying to spin their version of what happened. Everyone trying to avoid the word they were too afraid to say. Stolen. They never said it. Not once. Karen said it was an act of desperation. Jake said it was just a mistake in communication. My mom said I pushed them into a corner. But nobody said what it actually was. Theft. By that evening, I was sitting on my small couch, watching the cursor blink in a blank email draft addressed to the entire family. I had written and deleted it 4 times. Every version sounded either too soft or too brutal. Either I was begging to be understood or cutting the cord like it was a business merger. Neither felt right. So I waited until I knew exactly what I wanted to say. And then I drove. I showed up at my parents' house unannounced. Just me, a folded envelope in my coat pocket, and more resolve than I had felt in years. Dad opened the door. He looked surprised, but not like he was happy to see me. More like he knew something was coming and hoped I would turn around. Mom was in the kitchen. Karen was on the couch, eyes red like she had been crying, but makeup still fresh. Jake leaned against the wall, arms crossed like he was ready to play mediator. I did not sit down. I just stood there, pulled the envelope out, and set it on the coffee table. Inside was a printed letter, simple, direct. I told them the accounts were closed, that the money was gone, that I would not be lending anything else. Not now. Not ever again. And then I said the one thing I had never said out loud to them in my entire life. I deserve better. That was the moment Karen finally broke the silence. Are you really going to punish your whole family over one bad call? I laughed quietly. It was not even bitter anymore. Just tired. I told her this was not about one call. It was about years. Years of being treated like a backup plan. A resource. A tool. I told her that if she had just asked, maybe I would have said yes again. Maybe. But the moment she decided I no longer had a choice, that is when she crossed the line. Dad stepped in. His voice was hard, flat. You're overreacting. And that is when I finally let the last wall fall. I told them about the diagnosis. Their faces dropped. I told them about the appointments, the emergency fund I had been building, the nights I went without so they could sleep comfortably, the lunches skipped, the plans canceled, the dreams shelved. Mom covered her mouth. Jake's eyes dropped. Karen? She just sat there like someone had punched the air out of her. I looked around that room, my family, and I saw it clearly for the first time. Not love, not support, just access. And now that access was gone, so was the illusion. I turned to leave. Jake said something weak behind me. Maybe my name. Maybe sorry. I did not stop to listen. Because some things, once taken, cannot be returned. And I had finally taken mine back. 3 days passed. No calls. No texts. It was the quietest my phone had been in years. And for a while, it felt wrong. Not peaceful. Not freeing. Just empty. Like quitting caffeine after a lifetime of coffee. Your hands stop shaking, but your body misses the chaos. I kept thinking about that room. The way Karen's face crumbled when I said the word diagnosis. The way my dad stared at the floor, unwilling to meet my eyes. I wondered if they were sorry. If they had finally seen me as a person instead of a pipeline. But I did not reach out. Instead, I started cleaning. My apartment, my inbox, my mind. I deleted old reminders. Unsubscribed from store coupons. Canceled memberships I forgot I had. It felt like sweeping out parts of myself I had let rot in silence. That is when I found it. An old email, buried under months of unread junk. From Leah, Karen's daughter. It was dated almost a year ago. Sent at midnight, on a Wednesday. The subject line just said, Uncle? I almost deleted it without opening. Instead, I clicked. Hey, Mom does not know I'm writing this. But I just wanted to say thank you. For everything. For always helping us. For always showing up. I know she says you're too serious and stingy lately, but I see it. I see what you've done. I remember when you paid for my braces and never told anyone. And when you stayed on the phone with me that whole night after that fight with Dad. I'm sorry they don't treat you better. I don't know why they don't see it. But I do. I hope you're okay. I hope you're not too tired. Because you deserve to be taken care of too. I love you. I mean it. I sat back, stunned. It was like someone had cracked open a window in a sealed room. The words hit harder than I expected. Because I had forgotten what it felt like to be seen. I had been so busy carrying everyone that I forgot what it felt like to be appreciated. Genuinely. Quietly. Not for what I gave, but for who I was. I sat there for a long time, rereading it. Wondering if Leah had ever said anything to her mom. Wondering if she ever got in trouble for sending it. Wondering if maybe there was one person who never saw me as a bank. I looked her up on social. She had moved out. Started college. Studying art, apparently. Her page was quiet. No drama. Just drawings and poems in coffee cups. I thought about replying. But I didn't. Not yet. Because before I reached back, I needed to finish something first. And that meant doing the one thing I had never done before. Not protecting them. Not explaining myself. But telling the truth, out loud, for everyone to hear. The family group chat had been dead for over a week. No good mornings. No memes. No Sunday check-ins. Just silence. And then I broke it. Not with a rant. Not with a long explanation. Just a file. I titled it, Running Total. PDF. No caption. No warning. Just the numbers. Every transfer. Every emergency. Every, I'll pay you back next Friday. Every dollar that left my account over the past 5 years. I listed dates. Amounts. Reasons. Who asked. Whether it was returned. Spoiler. Almost none were. Underneath it, I wrote one sentence. If you're going to call me selfish, at least know what it cost me to play your savior. Then I muted the thread. For the first time, I got to decide what silence looked like. I left the apartment that morning and went for a long walk. The air had that early autumn bite, sharp enough to keep you awake, but not cold enough to hurt. I did not check my phone once. By the time I got back, the thread had exploded. Over 30 messages. The first few? Defensive. Jake, this is petty, bro. You're turning this into math? Karen, I didn't keep track because I thought we were family. My mom. We never asked you to keep receipts. That's not how love works. But then it shifted. Jake's wife messaged. I didn't know he borrowed that much. I'm sorry. One of my cousins chimed in, quiet but firm. Honestly, I always thought the way they leaned on you was unfair. I just never said it out loud. Even my aunt, My mom's sister left a message. Just one line. I'm proud of you for setting the boundary I never could. That one hit hardest. Because that is what it really was, right? Not revenge. Not anger. Not punishment. A boundary. And boundaries do not destroy families. They just show you who was really there for love and who was there for access. By evening, I had 2 missed calls from my dad. No voicemail. Just silence on his end now. But that was fine. Because for once, I was not the one trying to fix things. I was not the one explaining, defending, or justifying. I was just living. For me, that night, I did something simple. I cooked myself dinner. Not leftovers. Not something frozen. Real food. Garlic, butter, something sizzling in a pan. I poured a drink. Sat down at the table. Turned on some quiet music. And for the first time in years, I ate without guilt. Because nobody was waiting for a piece of it. Nobody was calling mid-bite asking for just a little help. Nobody was owed. The debt was closed. And I was finally free. It has been 3 months. The dust settled, more or less. The family group chat never recovered. Karen removed herself. Jake went quiet. My parents? They stopped calling. I guess once the ATM shuts down, there is no point standing in line. At first, the silence felt like punishment. Like I had failed some unspoken role. But now, it feels like peace. My life is smaller now, in the best ways. Fewer obligations. Fewer guilt-driven texts. Fewer knots in my stomach when my phone lights up. The biggest change? I have time. For myself. For things that matter. For people who never made me earn their love with wire transfers. Like Leah. She texted me again last week. Simple stuff. Hope you're doing okay. Made something today you might like. She attached a photo of a pencil sketch. It was me, sitting on that old park bench I used to take her to. Hoodie pulled over my head, tired eyes, coffee in hand. But the caption underneath? It said, "The strongest person I know." I do not cry easy, but I had to set the phone down. I called her that night. We talked for over an hour. Not about what happened. Not about the money. Just about life. She told me she was proud of me. That she wanted to visit over winter break. That she missed me. And that was all I needed to hear. Because I finally understood something. Love that's real doesn't come with invoices. It shows up when you have nothing left to give. It stays when your pockets are empty. It cares more about your peace than your usefulness. I used to think that saying no would make me a bad brother, a bad son, a bad man. But all it did was shine a light on what had already been broken. Turns out, family is not defined by blood or history. It is defined by what they do when you stop serving their needs. So yeah, I lost some people, but I found myself. And if the cost of that was a few burned bridges, then I paid it gladly. Because for the first time in my life, I am not the bank. I am the balance. And I am finally back in the black.